Every day, millions of people go online to search for local businesses. Does your small business show up? When you create a website on WordPress.com, you make it easier for your customers to find you, to connect with you, to hear how you can help them. Your business needs an online home. It needs a WordPress.com website. You don't need experience setting up websites. WordPress guides you through the process from start to finish. They take care of the technical stuff, so it's easy to get your site up and running. Their customer support team is made up of WordPress experts eager to help you get the most from your site. They're available to help 24 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and weekends. Plans start at just $4 a month, and all WordPress plans include a custom domain name for the life of the plan. Come see why 28% of all websites run on WordPress. Get started today with 15% off any new plan purchase. Go to WordPress.com/Golic to create your website and find the plan that's right for you. That's WordPress.com/Golic for 15% off your brand new website. WordPress.com/Golic.
Great news. There's a quick way you can save money. Switch to Geico. Geico could help you get great coverage at a great price. And it only takes 15 minutes to see if you could save 15% or more on car insurance. Go to geico.com today and see how much you could save.
This is the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome in to another edition of Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic Jr. Guys, it's not just a Monday. It's the Monday of Super Bowl week. Woohoo!
Yes, it is. And it's the Monday after the Grammys.
Yeah.
So
okay.
there
you bet.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
I really... I have one thing on this because I was asked, I watched the Grammys, I was tweeting a little bit about it. I said I was switching back and forth because somebody rightfully tweeted me on AMC last night was Armageddon.
Oh, yeah.
So of course
we're doing this again.
Of course I was going back and forth with one of the greatest movies of all time.
My mom was slandering that movie, by the way, in our family group text.
I know she was.
Have never been more concerned about the woman that birthed me in my life.
Defies more space laws than any other movie out there. But my point is, I've always said for one day, if I wanted to be the athlete I wanted to be LeBron. I wanted to feel to be that great of an athlete for one day to be able to do what he does. And in the entertainment world, I want to dance like Bruno Mars.
You want to dance with somebody?
I want to dance like Bruno Mars. That man won 3 Grammys, I think.
Won 6.
He won 6?
Bruno Mars won 6 Grammys.
Why did I see a headline on TV where he only won 3? They had it wrong. And did Kendrick Lamar won 5, I think?
Kendrick Lamar, both of them had huge nights. Crushed it.
Bruno Mars dancing, the dude floats. Yeah. Now, he's a tiny man.
Yes.
I understand that. But wow. I mean, really, I'd like to dance like him for one day, even though I think I would hurt myself.
But it would be worth it.
Yeah, it
would totally
really would.
Be worth it.
It'd be in traction for a while, but I would say, man, you look good.
The debate we've always had, because I thought Bruno's Super Bowl halftime show at Super Bowl 48 was just off the charts good.
I agree.
It was amazing. Would you rather be Bruno or Justin Timberlake?
Well, you'd rather be Justin because he can golf.
He's like a 2 square. He's like a 2. He's like, I throw in all the stuff, and by the way, I can light it up at Pebble Beach with Steph Curry.
Justin can move as well.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that.
I think Bruno's like the
There's
modern...
no wrong answer.
Yeah, I agree.
Bruno is the iteration of Justin Timberlake that we had when Friends with Benefits came out. And he was acting and singing and doing all these things. That was the height of versatile JT. We're at the height of versatile Bruno. If you told me we gave Bruno Mars a Vegas-style residency on the Super Bowl halftime show until he died, I would sign up for that in a heartbeat.
I agree.
Because he can do everything. We were having the debate this morning. Would you rather be able to have his voice or his dancing ability? And then I realized you could throw his ability to play musical instruments, and we're asking for one, and he gets all of them. Every day.
I think you're shorting JT's versatility now. I think you just.
Oh, I'm not.
I just said he peaked, and he's not really that versatile anymore.
Well, he's not as popular anymore.
Well, he's not as popular anymore.
Like even when his new album has come out now, and we'll see how that picks up because it really just dropped. But Bruno Mars has been that guy for a minute right now. Like it is Bruno's time.
I love the fact you're saying he's peaked. He's doing halftime of the Super Bowl. JT is.
I'm not. I mean, listen, but if you're going to argue that JT's peak wasn't around then,
he's still not at the top
it's a great peak. He gets
not giving you that one.
Nope, it's a great peak, but it is Bruno's game right now.
You think Justin still as popular as he was when he was at his height?
I have no idea.
Oh, and by the way, I would take Bruno's.
Isn't that conflict in what we're going for? Line in the sand.
I would take Bruno's the dancing.
That's what we said too. I said the Grammys is just interesting because you think about it for us in the world of sports, take the ESPYs. You couldn't get up there and ask guys to have a football game in the middle of the ESPYs and perform that, or start a pickup hoops game in the middle of that. But you can have a musical performance in the middle of the Grammys. You can quite literally do the thing that got you nominated. No other award show outside of Tony's Twitter came after me last night. You can do it at the Tonys.
The Tonys and like the
a pie eating
country
contest.
Music Awards. They play
any
all
sort of musical award show.
Right.
But I'm talking about the big ones, like the EGOT ones. When you look at the Emmys and the Oscars,
where
and
you can
everything
actually
like that.
do what you doing on stage that got you the award.
The Grammys and the Tonys are uniquely positioned, whereas I look at our world of sports and say, there's no way we could do that. You could never ask guys to go out there and try and do that. The best we can do is cut a highlight and hope it holds.
Yeah, that's true.
My favorite thing about all of that was, and that's where you lost me, we couldn't have a football team come up and do a game at the middle of the ESPYs.
You couldn't.
It'd be difficult.
It'd be a logistical nightmare.
Very, very difficult.
Gotta be honest,
a lot of waivers to be signed.
I did not think at 6:04 that's where we would be going this morning.
The hitting would be as hard as the Pro Bowl hitting.
There was hitting,
unless you're in the last 2 minutes.
When the double the cash is on the line. It's amazing when there's an actual game broke out, when you realize what Patrick Peterson said. I got 40 relatives here. That's when he's looking at that hotel, but I really need to win this.
Need the winning share.
Need to win this share. Yeah. Otherwise, this is a losing week for me.
By the way, I've got the key. If you want to talk about what makes the Pro Bowl weekend more interesting, I've got my one tip to save them all. I know how we can make the weekend the best version possible.
And it is a good one.
That's a tease.
Yeah.
We'll get to that, I promise you. Yeah. By the way, we're here now, but in a couple of days we won't be.
No, we won't.
We're going to be on the road in Minneapolis for Super Bowl 52 and Golic and Wingo on the road. We'll be in the zone in Minnesota. Brought to you by AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. We got great guests coming up for you today. New head coach of football, New York Football Giants, Pat Shurmur, will join us. Jay Billis, our college basketball analyst, will help us sort of delve through what's going on with Michigan State, which has evolved into so much more after Larry Nassar, thankfully, is sentenced and gone forever. But there's a lot of questions after the OTL report at Michigan State, and how do we parse all that and what happens? We'll get Jay to join us at 7:30. Pam Shriver, one of our great tennis analysts, will join us to talk about Roger Federer doing it again.
Yes, he is.
At the age of 36, winning his 20th Grand Slam. He's now won 3 of the last 5 after a 4-year drought, which is remarkable. And we can get into this discussion of what's more impressive, what Roger is doing at 36 or what Brady is doing at 40 in a team sport. It's really quite an interesting comparison. Damian Woody will join us at 8:30. He knows what it's like to go there and get through all of this in a Super Bowl week with the Patriots. He'll share his thoughts on both. And then a really interesting conversation coming away in the 9 o'clock hour. Ken Rogers, the director of the new 30 for 30 film, The Two Bills, will join us. I've seen it twice already. We got an advance copy.
It is something.
It is unbelievable.
2 headstrong guys when Belichick was on the staff with Bill Parcells.
And to see the evolution of Belichick from then to now and how he sort of handled it, it's really fascinating.
Yeah,
it's a fascinating dynamic. We'll get into all of that. Again, he'll join us at 9 o'clock. That premieres, February 1st, guys? Isn't that when the Two Bills comes on February 1st? Isn't that when it is? Thursday, yeah. Or Thursday.
Either way.
Some people might call that Thursday.
Some call
in
it
the
February
common
1st. Some call it Thursday.
There you go.
Either way, so we'll have all that for you. But let's start this show 6 minutes late with what we normally do.
It's time for Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
All right, we start with the conclusion of the men's final at the Australian Open as Roger Federer took down Marin Cilic in the Australian Open final on Sunday to notch his 20th Grand Slam, his 20th. He's the 4th tennis player and first male tennis player to win at least 20 majors, joining Margaret Court, Serena Williams, and Steffi Graf.
Yeah, Margaret Court is one ahead of Serena, so we'll see how Serena comes back after giving birth to her first child. Court 24, Serena 23, Steffi Graf 22, and now Roger at 20. I mean, it is really impressive what he's doing, as you mentioned, at 36 years old. Ken Rosewell is the only one who won a major older, right? He was 37. He won the Australian in 1972. What's interesting is men 30 or older have won each of the last 6 Grand Slam titles. So while Roger's been killing it right now, the old guys, and I'm doing air quotes now, have been pretty successful at the Grand Slams.
Yeah, it doesn't really bode well for the future of tennis at the current moment.
Well, that's true and that's not true. I mean, look, but the guys that are winning it at 30 are Rafa Nadal, who has, 14 majors, I think, and Andy Murray and Novak Djokovic. So those guys are, I mean, the reason the young guys aren't winning, this may be the best group of veteran tennis players we've ever seen play together, you know? And you have some of these young guys like Misha Zverev and
see, we don't know him though. That's the thing. You know him. You do Wimbledon.
Yeah.
You're into we don't. The people, the casual fan tennis wants,
You're absolutely right.
has no idea who those people are. Who you just said. They know the four you started with.
Correct.
And those guys are the ones on the coming to that 18th, 19th hole of their career.
Exactly. You worry about what the collective exhale for the sport looks like when these names, and there are a lot of them that we're going to talk about today that are aging superstars still at the top of their sport, what the world looks like when they leave in each sport.
Because on the women's side, you have some of the younger women, the
Absolutely.
U.S. women that are up and coming that you are knowing of now.
Absolutely. So it was all the semifinals and the finals of the U.S. Open was 4 women.
Right.
It was Madison Keys, Sloane Stephens,
right.
Coco Vandeweghe, and Venus. So it was an amazing thing. And by the way, we should congratulate Caroline Wozniacki, who won the women's Australian Open title on Saturday, first major of her career.
Isn't it always 4 women in the semifinals?
Four American women.
Four
American
American
women.
Oh,
I didn't say American. That was my bad. Well, he was alluding to it, so I did. Yeah. No, I messed it up. There were 4 American women. And you're right.
It's amazing.
There are always 4 women.
And Stanzik's the one that told Mike to say it's so easy to sit behind the glass and judge, isn't it?
Just
It's so easy to drive in the morning and listen to someone else's radio show and criticize their pronunciation of assuage.
Who would ever do that? I would never assuage you like that.
No.
So
we need to hit a button.
By the way, I know I couldn't find it. It's not there. It's not there.
I saw
anymore.
you looking over at the board.
Like, where is
no.
It wasn't there.
It's all gone so
But by the way,
poorly.
we are stealing something from you later on.
Yes,
today.
we
We'll
are.
talk about that.
Off the top.
You mentioned aging superstars. Tiger Woods finished an even par round on Sunday and 3 under for the tournament at the Farmers Insurance Open. It's his first 4-round. His first 4 rounds at an official worldwide event for the first time since the 2015 Wyndham Championship.
And you want to talk about a hold your breath and have everybody looking off the tee.
Yep.
Dude, I mean, his first round he hit 8 of 14 fairways, and every other day he hit 3.
Yeah.
3 of 14, 17 fairways off the tee, his fewest in any PGA Tour event in which he completed all 4 rounds. But you know what? You drive for show and you putt for dough, and he was hitting his putts. He was absolutely hitting his putts yesterday or throughout the weekend. But, let's also give it up to Jason Day and Alex Noren. They're still playing.
Right.
They played 5
playoff holes yesterday?
Yeah. And who was I forgot the third now.
Ryan Palmer.
Palmer started with him. He was out on the first extra hole. They went 5, darkness hit in. They're going to finish it today. But those two are, it's kind of like, Happy Gilmore. Everybody's talking about Tiger and, here's Shooter saying,
yeah.
What place did he come in?
Oh, yeah, dead last.
Yeah. What is this check I'm holding up here? So for Jason Day and Noren, one of those will be holding up the big check today.
Same situation as Federer, though. That's the power of Tiger Woods, where he comes back and Jason Day playing in a playoff is by the way, another guy who falls into one of the young up-and-coming stars in golf, up-and-coming, pretty established stars, the young group of which we have in golf. Right. That all still get pushed to the side when T. Gray gets back into the mix.
And the golf purists will be out there. Why are you focusing on him? He wasn't winning. I get all that. Look at the crowds that were following Tiger.
Exactly right.
And look at the crowds that were following everybody else.
They were way bigger than the crowds following the leader. So it's just the way it is, gang. And and wait till you see ratings as well.
That's exactly right. You just want that. You want that hit. You want to believe. Mm-hmm. Look, the most important thing for Tiger is that he didn't wince once. He was able to practice after every round and get out there and feel like it's sort of possible again. And the most important thing, look, yesterday was a really tough day on the course. The wind picked up and it was warmer, so it was very dry. At one point, he had one of the few rounds under par yesterday. Right. For the fact that he hasn't finished a 4 round since 2015, and for him to finish in the top 25, look, that's a huge win, not only for Tiger, but for golf. And we'll see what happens going forward as he tries to get more events on his schedule leading up to, obviously, where he'll be in April, which would be the Masters.
Off the top.
NBA, ladies and gentlemen, in Cleveland, it's called a winning streak. The Cavs defeated the Pistons 121-104. First back-to-back wins since December 16th and 17th for the Cavs.
Yeah, but of course it comes with somebody still pouting after it.
Sniping.
Isaiah Thomas did not play a single second of the fourth quarter. Basically, LeBron was in there with some of the second unit guys, and they were just rolling. So Ty Lue's plan is kind of go with some of the hot hands while he's trying the different rotations. Going into the fourth quarter, after the third, Isaiah Thomas had 22 more touches Then LeBron James, 77-55, but then LeBron got 31 in the fourth quarter. But Isaiah wasn't real happy about not being around in the fourth quarter, but a lot of it was on rhythm, and this is something they kind of have to get figured out, and that's what they're doing as the regular season rolls on.
Isaiah Thomas has bristled a lot lately, and I get it. You're the new guy. Like, he tried that strategy of blame Kevin Love when you come in as the new guy and get blamed for the defense that was bad before you got there, or people criticizing your shot selection that they knew coming in, but that many more touches than the best guy on the team. I don't care what your game is. When you come to Cleveland or any LeBron James team, you understand you take a back seat to that dude. And so if I'm Ty Lue, if that means I have to physically remove him from the court to make that happen, that's what you do, because nothing I've seen from IT has said, oh yeah, you're good enough to warrant that right now.
Yeah, and the other side of that could be as well from the Rockets with Harden and Chris Paul. They do well when each are on the court alone as well. So as you can do that, they're on together at times, but alone as well at times, like LeBron and Isaiah Thomas are, that can help that team.
By the way, isn't that why Kyrie's in Boston? Because in Cleveland,
yes,
it's that dude and it's LeBron James, and that's why Kyrie wanted to get out. Look, I'm sure that as the competitor, you want to be there. You're winning. Stop. You're winning.
Well, that's what he did say that. He said, hey, the important thing is it's not like he got in front of the microphone and lost his mind. He said, we won the game. That's the important thing. The second unit with LeBron, they were playing well. They were in a groove. But there's no doubt, the competitive nature in you says, I want to be out there when things are going on.
Good for Ty Lue to look. He said there were going to be changes. He's trying everything he can possibly do with this lineup. And I thought Adrian Wojnarowski said it best. Look, he's coaching like guys not afraid to get fired or thinking he's going to get fired.
And that's not a small thing in this day and age when there are such big contracts on the line for these coaches, when job security is not always at a premium, especially in the NBA. To coach not scared is something that we shouldn't take for granted.
Especially when in the NBA, more than any other sport, the players always have all the power. The dynamic is completely different than, say, in every other sport.
Off the top.
And we finish up off the top. Don't miss a college basketball doubleheader this evening on ESPN. First up, fourth-ranked Duke hosts Notre Dame at 7 Eastern, with the Blue Devils looking to avoid their first back-to-back losses this season. Then at 9 Eastern, number 5, Kansas versus Kansas State. The Jayhawks are averaging almost 84 points a game, on pace for their most under Bill Self and the most since the 2001-2 Final Four team.
Yeah, Kansas State is trying to get its second win over a top 5 opponent. They beat number 4 Oklahoma earlier on. It'd be the first time since the 89-90 season that they had multiple wins over top 5 teams. And listen, Duke and Notre Dame, Marvin Bagley III, he is such a ball to watch what he does. And for Notre Dame, what they were 13-3, they lost 5 straight. Injuries they're dealing with as well. Not to sit there and use that as an excuse, because Duke's an excellent team, but it has not been going well for the Irish, missing some of their players.
No, but Notre Dame, since joining the ACC, has been a thorn in the side for the teams from the state of North Carolina. But for them this year, Mike Bray always does a good job making chicken salad out of not always the greatest chicken. In South Bend, you understand the limitations.
Way to move that around.
Exactly.
Not the greatest chicken.
Exactly. But you understand the limitations there. But down their top 3 scorers at this point because of injury, there's just some point for every team where you reach that threshold where it's too much to overcome.
But what was the note over the weekend? What, Duke and North Carolina lost home games on the same day for the first time since like the Mesozoic era?
Yeah, it's been a long
years.
time.
45.
Yeah,
Mesozoic era, 45 years. Thursday, February 1st. Stanzik.
All the same thing. When you think about it.
Call those synonyms.
There you go. But not homonyms. That's a different thing entirely.
Did you say cinnamon? Like cinnamon toast?
There it is.
Some of that?
There it is. Food.
Where?
With food at 6:16.
We're
good.
That?
No, we'll get some, though.
Okay.
We'll get some. We'll get some cinnamon buns for
for
the big man. And that's what everybody's talking about.
They are.
Brought to you by Dave & Buster's. Dave & Buster's. Watch the games and play the games only at Dave & Buster's. And we're going to play a game.
Yes, we are.
This weekend in Minneapolis, Super Bowl 52. We are here. It is Super Bowl week. Again, we're leaving tomorrow, Wednesday through Friday. Our show will be from the Mall of America, the Hard Rock Cafe.
Yes, Mall of America.
Are you going to be all right with that? Because we're at the Hard Rock Cafe, which is a restaurant inside the Mall of America, right next to Radio Row, which is in a food court.
I'm going to eat well.
I'm going to say, are you going to make it to the end of the week?
I'm going to. I plan on working out while I'm there to kind of, not to work out to gain anything.
Yeah.
The workout will just to be to level off what else I'm going to do to my body.
I'm really hoping they open up the Sbarro in the food court at about 5 a.m. when I'm finishing first and last and coming over to you guys.
If you think about it, they should, because who is more of a slothy eating bunch than Radio Guys.
That's true,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that food court could make $1 bazillion this week if they just open up early.
Radio guys and radio listeners who will be there coming to the shows.
You're right. It's practical business. It's like I've always said, I don't understand why more fast food places around college campuses aren't open 24 hours on the weekends, because you make money off drunk college kids the same way you'd make money off bleary-eyed radio hosts and patrons.
Just like give me some cheap energy to fuel me for another 2 hours of Jimmy and the Sports Nuts.
But how great is it? We can talk about a game now. We can actually get ready to break down this game a little bit. Eagles and Patriots.
And who knows it better than Tom Brady, who was there for the 8th time?
It's pretty overwhelming, actually. And I've been fortunate to play in the game. So I think it's just, I know the pace of the week. And I think the important thing is you can't say yes to everything. You can only do so much. And the way you remember the week is by winning the game. So it's not about, where you can go or what you can do. For me, it's about, what I need to do to study and prepare and be as prepared as I can be mentally and physically so I can be the best I can be for the most important game of the year.
That sounds about right.
Well, it does. And oh, by the way, as he said, he has a lot of experience to lean on. And that line is so true about the experience. The whole idea is to win the game. That's what's going to make it a good experience. I don't hear many players from losing Super Bowl teams that say, yeah, but it was still a great experience. Now, I would still like to go even if I'm going to lose, but you don't hear many, just going on and on about, boy, what a great experience it was, and we lost. The whole thing that sets the tone for your experience is if you win the game or not.
Exactly. It's a little bit too important to everyone involved, and you understand, even if you haven't been here before, at this point you start to feel, man, we've put a lot into this season. You see all the eyes are on you, and you realize you're the only show in town now. So with all that comes that heightened sense of awareness where if you're Tom Brady, your heart rate doesn't really pick up. Right. You saw there, this is about as matter-of-fact as it gets for that guy, almost to the point where you feel like in that he's bored, like he's trying to invent new things to say, because he's given the same answer for so long, because for them it's been the model of consistency.
And for whatever you think about experience, the Eagles have 6 players on their team that have Super Bowl experience. The Patriots, 35.
Yeah.
Obviously.
A little different.
A little bit different. For wherever that goes once the game starts, is I as a lot of people are saying who have played in that game, and Damian Woody will be one of them when we talk to him later, is once I think you start the game, they say as soon as you make it like a game, it's a game. It's got to be that prep. Just as Tom said, you can't say yes to everything. At some point, I'd imagine these guys have to turn those phones off for everything that's going on over the last 2 weeks. And I would imagine for the inexperienced, it'd be more about the prep in those 2 weeks and the actual game itself.
Yeah, and 2 of those 6 for the Eagles were there with the Patriots last year.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Like Garrett Blunt and
right,
Chris Long.
Right.
But you're right. That's the thing. The hardest part is to realize it's not just another game, but it is a game you have to prepare for like it is. You have to accept the reality of what it is and then try and focus on what is the most important thing. I mean, Troy Aikman once said, he said all week before his first Super Bowl, it's just fine, it's just fine. And then he said he almost passed out on hyperventilator during the Star Spangled Banner. I mean, it just, you try and do all these things. You cannot tell yourself it's just another game, but you have to prepare for it like it's a game, understanding the craziness that goes around it.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. 24 Karat Magic, Record of the Year and Album of the Year.
God, it's so much better than Justin Timberlake.
Golic Wingo at ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. But see, the one thing I love about the Grammys more than anything else?
What's that?
It gets everybody to really think they understand the difference between Song of the Year, Record of the Year, and Album of the Year.
Yeah.
Gets you every time.
Yeah, I need serious explanation on that stuff.
I've been through this a million times. I think Song of the Year is a single hit.
Okay, song I get. What
Record of
album?
the Year is the album, and Album of the Year. See, I can't figure it out.
Song's the easy one. It's record and
Mike,
like, do you know this?
You need like the blackjack table card version of this that tells all the old people when to hit and stay.
Yeah, what is record and album?
Is it record of the year the actual like written produced portion of it?
Right.
So record of the year is like who is like the writing credit on the song and everything
and
else.
Album of the year.
Album of the year is the actual album of the year is the actual performer's entire album. Okay. Song of the year is the individual.
Song is
single.
easy. That's
song,
the easy one.
Record is the record is the people that put it together, and the album is the actual artist.
Correct.
We'll
yeah.
go
So
with that. Let's go with that.
It's not always the same because sometimes the artist is the person who wrote the song. Sometimes it's not. So that's where the discrepancy comes in.
All right. Makes sense.
Drives me crazy.
Even
every
if
year.
it's not true, it makes sense.
I was about to say, as long as you say it with conviction.
That's exactly right.
And we'll get into some things that people said with conviction a little later on this show. But it was funny. One of the things that happens when you do a show like this is suddenly you have conversations off the air that you realize those would be really good conversations on the air. And we had a little bit about the Grammys in the last segment. And that got all three of us talking about the first concerts we ever went to.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a great discrepancy there between the three of us on their first concert. You want to lead us off on your first concert?
Yeah, so my first concert ever was the Project Revolution tour back in the day. The headliner was Linkin Park. The other acts on it were Snoop Dogg and Korn.
With a K.
Yes, with a
hard K.
I think it was a backwards K, actually. Or no, it was a backwards R, normal K.
Right.
But yeah, that crowd had an interesting smell to it.
Yes, it did.
And a lot of different types of people. It was a very diverse audience. It was a cool scene. I saw some things for the first time in that setting that as a young man were an important part of the process. But yeah, it was an interesting group.
How old were you? How old were you?
I was in seventh grade. You, me, and Jake went to that concert. I was a big Linkin Park fan back in the day. Linkin Park.
What about you?
I don't know how the dude from Linkin Park screams as long as he does.
Yeah.
It was just always amazing.
Yeah, no, it was a gift, yeah. How about Jonathan Davis from Korn, also gifted vocalist, and Snoop Dogg. I mean, who does it better than Snoop?
Well, that's exactly right.
Little Korn for you in the background, right there.
Oh yeah,
7th grade Mike Golick Jr. jamming to this.
There was a great mashup of this with "Lean With It, Rock With It," called "Coming Undone With It." Back when mashups between alt metal and hip hop artists were a thing.
Look at you go.
By the way, here's the official definition: Record of the Year is awarded for a single on one track from an album. This award goes to the performing artist, the producer, the recording engineer, and or mixer for that song. In this sense, record means a particular recorded song, not its composition of an album of songs.
Okay, gotcha.
So there you go. It's one's like almost a technical award.
Gotcha.
Do you remember your first concert?
It was locally. It was Jimmy Buffett.
Nice.
Jimmy Buffett.
That makes all the sense in the world. That your first concert.
Go sitting on the lawn, Jimmy Buffett, and just
Parrot Head.
There you go. That's exactly right.
My first concert was The Who in Madison Square Garden in the 70s. I was a young kid, and to your point, it was a very eye-opening experience.
Right? Like,
for a lot of reasons. I mean, I'm like, this is amazing! Look at what they're doing!
People do this?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, people are really open with drug use at concerts. It is amazing.
Not only that, like, they played one song, and then Pete Townshend, the lead singer, got up there and said, "It's great to be back in bleeping New York." And I was like, oh, I can't believe he just said that.
I'm learning so much.
I was like, I am never leaving this place. It is wonderful.
And more along our lines, Trey, you and I have grouped last night with U2 and Sting. Sting was really good last night in the Grammys. 66 years old.
Good for him.
Sting. Nice job out of him.
Yeah, I feel like all those fall more into like we were talking about the Dave Matthews concert experience for people like myself and and Stanzik and everyone's age.
Dude, you going to Dave?
Around Connecticut, that was the coming of age. That was the first place I ever heard of someone getting shot with a rubber bullet. I mean,
well, that's a rite of passage for anyone.
That was a rite of passage.
Your first rubber bullet shot.
I saw a 20-person fight that included multiple glass bottles getting broken over a guy's head.
Okay. Nice.
It was a lot. Devin over there was 10 when he first went to see Dave with his brother. That concert smelled funny.
Well, most concerts tend to have a certain
they certainly do.
Verbal mist.
They do.
By the way, the draft last year in Philadelphia, none of us would have passed the test.
Oh, really?
Secondhand
highs in the city of brotherly love.
It was quite the
celebration.
So
if you walked off the stage, they said, Trey, we need a sample. You'd have gone,
tomorrow. No. Give me some time.
Are you doing hair or pee? Because we could have an issue here.
It was quite impressive. So the reason we're bringing up the Grammys, obviously Kendrick Lamar and Bruno,
right?
Big winners this weekend.
Yes.
But Mike, you found someone who topped both of them.
This is, and we had the Pro Bowl, which we'll talk about, I guess, to a point. I just hear again people ripping the Pro Bowl. My thought is, then don't watch it.
Yeah.
But the kind of football it is. But there was another All-Star weekend. It was the NHL All-Star weekend, which, by the way, I love the skills challenge in that as well. But you want to talk about the winner? The winner from All-Star weekends? It was a rookie who plays for the Vancouver Canucks, Brock Besser. Brock Besser was the only rookie on the rosters. And in the game, he was the MVP. He was the MVP of the All-Star game.
Winner.
So here's what he won through the weekend. We'll go from the bottom up. He won in the skills competition. He won the accuracy contest, so he won himself $25,000.
Okay,
all right, $25,000. His team won the All-Star game, so he won $100,000.
So now we're 125.
We're at $125,000.
Yep.
He was the MVP, so he got a car.
Okay, let's say the car is at least 50 grand.
There you go.
At least 50, maybe
and
more. I'm going to go 75.
And it triggered a $212,500 bonus in his contract.
Jiminy Christmas.
What a win. 212, 125,000, and a car.
I'm going to say that's about a $412,000 weekend.
For the rookie.
Not bad.
That's
Not
impressive.
Bad. That is, but by the way, he won all that?
Yeah.
And he becomes our MVP moment of the week.
Well,
brought to you by Sport Clips.
Yeah.
Check in online at sportclips.com/check-in and claim your spot today.
Way to go, Brock. And I'm not going to lie.
Good.
I have not heard of many hockey players named Brock. Not going to lie. I just haven't.
That's true.
If you go, again, my generation, if you go word association with the name Brock, he's the guy defending the second gym in the original Pokemon game.
And for in the real world, for real people live?
Yeah.
Jeez. Brock Lesnar, is it's a real person.
I mean, listen, if you want to go
real
the chief,
human being.
I mean, why are you leaving out the foremost Brock, the Brockweiler, Brock Jesus,
the
Brock
Brocktagon?
Osweiler, yeah,
Rocky Top,
the Brocktagon,
I Brock the Sheriff,
our own Brock Heward,
absolutely.
Yep.
Brock Marion, former Cowboy safety, number 31.
I just have not heard of a lot of hockey players named Brock.
And Brock sounds like a really good hockey name.
It does.
Right?
Doesn't
Brock
it?
Sounds like a really good hockey name.
Brock is getting a puck to the face and he's not missing a second.
Great lettuce too, by the way.
Brock
solid blonde
hair.
flow.
Yeah.
By the way, you ever see that the one website comes out with the ultimate lacrosse names every year?
Oh,
that's
no.
one of the greatest lists of
the
all
all
time.
name team.
Oh my gosh, they are, and having known guys that played lacrosse. My son played lacrosse a little bit. All his friends. I'm like, yeah, these names make all the sense in the world. All the sense in the world.
We're just being told there are 3 Brocks in the NHL.
Really?
3 Brocks.
Well, no one had a better one than Brock.
Brock Besser. Brock, congrats to you, Brock
on the
Besser.
weekend.
You
Hero
absolutely
with the bank.
did. Yep.
Nicely done, Brock.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There was, by the way, $100K to win the NHL All-Star game.
Yes.
I think the NFL needs to step it up.
You would think so.
64 for the winner, 32 for the loser.
Yep.
Dude, if you don't win, that's a losing week for you.
Yeah, it is.
Because like Patrick Peterson brought 40 family members?
Yeah, you're losing
that
in the
hotel
bill. Yeah.
32 ain't covering it.
No, it's not.
Yeah. No chance, no
pool,
way.
The pool bar bill alone.
No, that's exactly right. That needs to be addressed. Get on that, NFLPA.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night. Yeah. No doubt about it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Delighted now to be joined by Giants head coach Pat Shurmur, who joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Coach, congratulations. Welcome into Golic and Wingo. What was your initial reaction when you realized, hey, you're going to be a head coach again, and it's going to be with one of the storied franchises in all of the NFL?
Well, as you can imagine, it was a great thrill. I really enjoyed, getting to know the guys through the interview process, and we quickly kind of came to the conclusion that this would be a good fit, and thrilled. We're fast at finishing up the staff and evaluating our players, and we're off and running.
Now, I know you're the interim head coach of the Eagles in 2015, but back when you were the head coach with the Cleveland Browns back in 2011, so we always talk about everything's a learning experience, Pat. So what did you learn most from there that you bring to this next full-time head coaching job?
Well, the first thing is there's a list of things I'll never do again. And I think everything Cleveland, I wish I knew then what I know now. I've said that in the past because you do learn, and I've learned since I left there. But I've got a list of things I'll never do again, and I also have a list of things that are super important to get done in the first month. And I think that, I alluded to it already, making sure I get the right staff in place and, getting the proper start to what's going to be a lot of work. Took over a 3-13 team. We got to make some changes, and we got to do a lot of work here.
I'm just curious, just if you can mention one, what would be like one thing that you won't do this time around?
Well, the first year, because I couldn't quite get the guy that I wanted, I didn't hire an offensive coordinator because I called the plays. Well, that's not the right thing to do. You need the full structure of coaches, and I think that's just one example. But, I've got another list of things that are somewhat private, but I just, you do things the first time and then give it an opportunity to do them the second time. You certainly, you kind of look and assess and reevaluate how things went, and you're able to do them better.
Giants head coach Pat Shurmur with us on Golic and Wingo this morning. And speaking of doing things better, you only lasted 2 seasons in Cleveland, but you won 9 games. I think if Cleveland had to do it all over again, they would have kept you. Because right now, you'd have a 30-foot statue of Pat Shurmur in Cleveland right now if you won 9 games over 2 years. But that's in the past. We're moving forward, Pat, with you with the Giants. And obviously, there's a lot of questions about what the Giants will do with that second overall pick. Eli is obviously towards the end of his career. There's a lot of quarterbacks in this draft, Pat. What is the team thinking right now in terms of maybe looking at that successor for Eli?
Well, certainly we're way too early in the process to kind of talk about what's going to happen there. The only thing I will say is, I was made aware of this, the history here. The last time the Giants had a number 2 pick, picked Lawrence Taylor.
So no pressure.
No, and then the next time they had a number 3 pick, they picked Carl Banks, and those are 2 franchise-changing players. And so, we're going to do what's best for the team, obviously. I don't want to sound all cliche-like, but, we're not quite there yet. We feel really good about Eli. I don't know much about Davis Webb other than I liked him coming out, So with regard to the quarterback position, we're going to work with the guys that are here and then certainly evaluate if there's a guy worthy of that at the 2 pick.
Well, we know a guy that they're going to throw the ball to, and that would be Odell Beckham Jr. coming back from the injury, and we know the talent that he has. And you said you're going to meet with him, and you want to discuss with him what it means to be a Giant. So what does it mean to be a Giant? What will that conversation entail? Well,
you mentioned it in the opener, but there's such pride and there's such history here. I think it's very, very important that we do what's right. I think the word culture is thrown around a lot. I think it really just comes down to doing what's right and competing, giving effort, and then playing the game with respect. And I think, those are all things. I'm not saying this in regard to obviously Odell. I've already spoken to him. Obviously we can just talk about, hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you stuff. But, I think talking to him, he sounds inspired to get ready to have a really good year. So I'm looking forward to that.
Pat Shurmur with us, the new head coach of the Giants, taking over a team that was 3-13. And obviously Odell wasn't there for a lot of last year, Pat, but there were issues in that Giants locker room. It seemed like every one of the secondary was suspended or disciplined at one point. And you talk about that culture change. How do you install the expectations right away that you want to see the players meet from day one?
Well, we've got to get the players in the building, and certainly as we go through the off season here, we just continually talk about what's right and how we're going to do business, and it's not. We really just got to set the standards and the guidelines. It's more than just saying follow the rules, but it needs to be relationship driven. We've got to talk about it. They got to understand not only what we think is right, but then help them understand why it's important so they believe in it as well.
Are you, Coach, do you kind of let the locker room police itself and run itself? What kind of are your attributes as a head coach, or how involved are you in that of players policing themselves?
Well, I think we bring in the right players, and then some of that handles itself. In terms of, I like to be involved with what's going on. I like to know what's going on. I like to have conversations with players, frequently, throughout the day, and then, the whole leadership thing that's another thing. I think that sometimes it's got a definition that's not quite the one I like. I think leadership is really just having the courage to do what's right. And I think that's the kind of locker room that we have. From what I've heard, we've got a lot of those guys down there. And again, I'm still in the beginning stages of sort of figuring out what went from 11-5 to 3-13. But certainly there's some things that we got to work through.
Pat Shurmur with us, the new head coach of the Giants, coming over from Minnesota, where he was the offensive coordinator with the Vikings. And one of the great stories of the year, Pat, was the turnaround in Case Keenum. I mean, how he flipped the script. Obviously, you worked very closely with him. What was it about Case that surprised you the most in the way he was able to sort of rewrite what people think of him?
Yeah, I think everything about Case behind the scenes, certainly we knew the player and we could watch the tape, and we brought him in initially with the idea he was going to back us up. But he, when given a chance to start, and it really did show through all the training, man, he was dialed in. He was ready to play. He could finish the call before I finished it, and and he's got this thing about his personality where he is a winner and he's a gritty guy, and somewhere in each game to either extend a drive or get us a score, he would do something a little bit heroic. And so I was really proud of his efforts. It was really a fun year. He initially said to me, he said, "Listen, I'm driving a really fast car and I'm going to drive it as fast as long as I can." And so his mindset on that was initially to just do what he could to help us win games, and then he was able to ride it all the way through for us.
Well, and speaking of something heroic, let's just relive that for a moment. We had Kyle Rudolph on the day after that when you guys beat the New Orleans Saints, and Rudy said that the play is basically called heaven, and boy, it was heaven sent. Can you take us through that play and just when you saw Diggs catch that thing and then he had nobody in front of him, just kind of your feelings that you saw the whole thing unfold?
Well, in that drive there, we hit a chunk on the first play, and then we were working our way down. So we just needed, we needed 15 yards or so to get into a position to kick a long field goal. So that was the idea. We had 10 seconds left. That play is designed to use the sideline, so we flood the sideline, and it went in, called heaven with a prayer, obviously. And then, what ends up happening is Diggsy, the ideal scenario and what we'd expected is he catches it and gets out of bounds. We kick the field goal. But, that was just the instincts of a player. He catches it. He's behind the defense, and he took off. And so I was obviously behind the play. Couldn't see it all happening. But you could, the crowd, it was like crickets in the crowd to begin with. And then all of a sudden you could hear them start to roar. So, it was quite an experience. It was obviously a play that was, Case made a great throw. Diggs made a great catch. There was protection. There was a guy that almost tipped the ball. So there was a lot going on there. And it was, it was one of those things that was fun to be a part of.
Rudy said he ran the short route of the three routes over there. And he said the first thing when Diggs caught it was get out of bounds. And he was scared that he didn't get out of bounds. It was going to get caught and you weren't going to have time. Did you think the same thing where you're like, just get out of bounds?
Yeah, I might have said that over the headset. I might have said that.
Well, look, that might have been my favorite moment of the entire year. The reaction.
Oh my gosh.
Josina Anderson got Everson Griffin on the field, and that was the greatest interview. And he really said nothing. I mean, he was like, I was sad. Now I'm happy. I mean, the reaction from everybody, that was one of the most, except if you're in New Orleans, obviously, that was one of the most unbelievable, joyous things I've ever seen in a lot of years of covering this sport.
And when you watch it, you got to listen to Paul Allen.
Oh yeah,
he was. I mean, he's obviously one of the best in the business, and that was quite a deal. You could feel the emotion in his voice. But you guys are you in Minneapolis yet?
We're getting there tomorrow.
We're getting there tomorrow.
You're gonna love it. I'm telling you, I didn't know anything about Minneapolis, and then certainly the last couple of years, it's a great city. I would imagine it's going to be. They're going to host a terrific Super Bowl, and I think you're going to enjoy it. Bring a coat, but other than that, it's going to be.
We're going to take full advantage of the gerbil tunnels that connect the buildings. Right. That's the most important thing we're going to do. Listen, Pat, congratulations. Sometimes you never get that second opportunity, so we're thrilled that you got that opportunity, and we'll see what happens with you and the Giants this coming season.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, guys. Have a great week.
You too, Pat. Thanks so much.
Bye now.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold.
It's very interesting where that went.
ESPN's college football analyst Jay Billis joins us and brought to you by Wendy's, the proud sponsor of the 2018 John R. Wooden Player of the Year Award. I say basketball. Yeah, there you go. Did I say football? That makes no sense.
I can do football.
I know.
Football's a lot easier.
Jay,
all I have to do is say you got to run the ball, you got to throw the ball,
you got
to control the line of scrimmage.
Stop it. Don't be that guy. Here I was. See, I was going to give you praise for the College Game Day Open yesterday.
Oh, it was fantastic.
West Virginia.
Oh, it was
all
fantastic.
That kind of stuff. And then you take the shot right out of the gate, Jay. You just take that shot right out of the gate.
It's not a shot. It's just how easy our jobs are. You can throw analysts at the end of any sport, and we could all do it.
Who is so you guys sang Almost Heaven, West Virginia. Who's the worst singer out of the four of you?
I think it was probably a tie for last there. None of us could carry a tune, but together we could blame it on each other. So, but it was really fun, and it was the best part about it, Mike, was how well received it was. I mean, you've been to Morgantown. The people are awesome.
Yeah,
they couldn't be nicer, and we had a blast there, as we always do. So it was. I'm just glad it was well received, and well received beyond Morgantown.
It was very cool.
Yeah,
Anybody didn't see it, you can Google that and find it. They're open to College Game Day. It was really, really cool.
It was really good. The flannel shirts, everything was working.
Very, very neat.
So that was one interesting thing that happened Saturday in college basketball. The other one, Jay, was how Alabama somehow slowed down the Trae Young Express. What did they do to a kid that, wow, had suddenly been doing everything right, and then they ran into a buzzsaw?
Well, they were on the Oklahoma was on the road, and it's always hard to win on the road. But Trae Young has been seeing a lot of different looks defensively, and Colin Sexton is not quite his equal as far as how good he is, but he's really good. Those are the two best freshman guards in the country, and Sexton is long and athletic. And Alabama's got a number. They're healthy now. They've got a number of younger players that are long and athletic, and they're good. And Avery Johnson's done a really nice job with them, and they get out and guard. So defensively, look, Oklahoma's going to win when they defend at a high level, and they can really score. But when you go on the road, you have to do more than just score. You're not going to outscore people, and I say outscore like you'd say out rebound. You're going to have to guard people at a higher level, and that's what Oklahoma's working on, I think.
You talked about the two best guards in the country. Let's go to possibly the best player in the country. Notre Dame takes on Duke. Marvin Bagley III. 6 games this year with 30 points and 10 rebounds, most in D1, including the game Saturday against Virginia. What do you see about him as far as one-and-dones you've seen over the last 5, 10, 15 years of where this guy rates and compares to that?
He is so productive, Mike, it's hard to imagine. You mentioned he had 6 30-point games to this point in the season. In Duke's history, freshmen have scored 30 in a game 7 times combined, and he's done it 6 times already this year.
Wow.
He's got incredible bounce, and his athleticism is really something to behold. His second and third jumps, I've never seen anybody that can do that, and he never takes a play off. He's smooth, so it doesn't look like he's working his tail off, but he is. I mean, he works all the time and never stops. His motor's unbelievable. But his productivity level, rebounding, I mean, he's leading the ACC in scoring and rebounding. Over 11 rebounds a game or 12 rebounds a game. He's got 22 points per game. And he's not knocking free throws down at a high rate yet. He's got a good enough stroke where I think that's going to really improve. But he could even be more productive than he is. And it's not like he gets the ball every time down. He goes and gets the ball, which I think is even more impressive.
Jay Billis with us this morning, our college basketball analyst, talking about some things that went on over the weekend on the court. And Jay, then there's the big storm cloud that's looming over Michigan State. And what happens there in the wake of the Outside the Lines report coming off the conviction of Larry Nassar. But it was pretty clear from the Outside the Lines report that there are other issues that Michigan State has to deal with, most notably some issues with the football program with Mark D'Antonio and also Tom Izzo, including Travis Walton, the former player of his, who was also a coach of his. What's your feeling on how or if, I know you've mentioned this before, that you're not sure the NCAA should be involved in investigating this. How do you think the investigation should go on as to what happened and who knew what, and did they follow the procedures?
Well, there are multiple investigations that are going to go on now. So you've got the Attorney General in the state of Michigan and a special prosecutor that Michigan State invited in the Attorney General in the state of Michigan. Now a special prosecutor has been appointed. The NCAA sent a letter of inquiry, which they have done, and they did in the Penn State case. But then they took it outside of the process. So, this letter of inquiry for the NCAA said that it would go through, if there are any violations, it would go through the Committee on Infractions process, which is vastly different from what happened with Penn State. With Penn State, they took it completely outside and just basically did whatever they wanted. The NCAA did. So there's a lot to be determined here as far as investigations go. And really, Trey, I think the key in this is to determine exactly what the facts were, not the facts of the underlying allegations of was there sexual assault. That I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the facts of what was the process that Michigan State had in place for handling allegations of sexual misconduct by athletes, and were those processes and protocols followed by the coaches, by the athletic department, by all those involved. That has to be; those are factual matters that have to be unraveled and have to be determined. Because, as you guys know, with Title IX investigations, the NCAA doesn't have policies and procedures and rules for how schools handle sexual misconduct allegations. That's essentially up to the schools. And so, each school may have a different one. I don't know exactly what Michigan State's policies and procedures were with regard to sexual misconduct by athletes. But it's really interesting. I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter the last couple of days. I went back and I looked at Mark Emmert's testimony before the Senate Commerce Committee in 2014, and Claire McCaskill, a senator from Missouri, asked him specifically about this and said that she had a study that 20% of all colleges and universities, NCAA schools, handled their sexual misconduct allegations against athletes through the athletic department. And Mark Emmert didn't know that. And he pledged to do something about it going forward. And I don't know, frankly, that other than putting out some guidelines, that anything has been done in that regard. And so it's a problem that we have that is industry-wide in college sports on college campuses, and it is societal in nature, but it has certainly visited Michigan State in a big way.
So where this goes now, Jay, again, the epicenter of it, like in Penn State with Jerry Sandusky in jail and Larry Nassar, we'll never see him again, and I won't say any more on what I think should go on there. But now we're dealing with what we're dealing with, and we know that in the social media world, how the flames get fanned all the time. In your thought process here, do you think there are going to be, from whether it's Emmert, the head of the NCAA, all the way on down to these big-time coaches we're talking about, that there's going to be more people losing their jobs in the wake of this thing?
I don't know, Mike. I'm not sure that will happen or should happen. I'll leave that to time to figure out. I do think a lot of important questions need to be answered. A lot of it is going to go through is going to come from the investigation process. Like, I just don't think, as a practical matter, these profound and important questions are going to be answered at a post-game press conference. Right. As a practical matter, that can't happen. I do think it's an interesting question you brought up about the head of the NCAA. That, Mark Emmert was provided with a letter from a woman named Catherine Redmond, and then met with her individually in 2010. And according to Ms. Redmond and according to Mark Emmert's email to the NCAA Board of Governors, he was made aware of 37 cases of sexual misconduct at Michigan State. The issue is, why didn't the NCAA do anything at the time, send a letter of inquiry at the time? If the NCAA had gotten involved, and I don't know whether it's appropriate that they would, but if they had sent their letter of inquiry then, and in my judgment, if they have the authority to do it now, they had the authority to do it then. Mm-hmm. And if they went in there and made inquiries and looked into it, could they possibly have determined what was going on with gymnastics? And look, I understand that's a big question. I'm not laying that at the feet of anyone when I ask that. I'm just saying it's a question that I think should be answered by the head of the governing body, given that he was informed at the time. Because if we're asking all of these questions about coaches and athletic directors, I think the leader of the NCAA, the governing body, should answer that question.
Well, Jay Billis with us, our college basketball analyst. Jay, with that in mind, there's a lot of complex issues at Michigan State, but does it really come down to a couple of simple questions that are answered? Who knew what? Did they follow the procedures that were in place? And were the procedures the problem, or were the people that not following those procedures the problem?
I think that's exactly right and very well stated. To me, there are some things about this that are very, very easy. And then there are some things about it that are a little bit more complicated. And with the way federal law is and Title IX investigations, how they have to be handled, and with regard to, a person who knows of an allegation when it's reported, taking it out of Michigan State and just asking the question generally, what is the coach to do after a matter has been reported to the authorities, whether campus police or the local police? If a coach became involved in it and stayed involved in it, we criticize them for trying to use undue influence. If they're outside of it and then the authorities make the determination, what are we reasonably asking the coach to do? Those are key questions that I think have to be determined in addition to the strict factual matters of exactly what happened at Michigan State in each of these cases as far as the protocols and procedures and whether they were followed.
Well, listen, this is the beginning of a process, clearly nowhere near the end of it. Jay, we appreciate you being with us this morning. And again, rocking not only the flannel shirt, but the beanie. That was a solid
good stuff.
pull.
Really good
Everyone
stuff.
else just went in with the shirt for the Open. You went with the beanie too, and it really worked.
Hey, does my pay go up being a football analyst now?
Yes.
No.
Congratulations.
No, not one bit.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that off the air.
No.
Good job.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for having me.
No,
Thanks,
no,
Jay.
doesn't,
Appreciate it.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
What I can tell you is you will be well spent to watch something this Thursday, February 1st. It's the Two Bills. It's the next 30 for 30 segment on ESPN, a documentary about the relationship and how it became strained and how it came back together between Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick. I've seen it. I've seen it twice. It is absolutely fascinating, and we're delighted to have Ken Rogers, the director of the Two Bills, join us now this morning in perfect timing as we get set for Super Bowl week. Ken, this is a fascinating documentary on so many levels. If you like football at all, you've always thought about the relationship between these two. I guess my question to you would be, how did you get them to both sit down and do it?
That's the question, right? The film is one thing, but just the fact that the film exists, that these two sat together, is the first question that everyone wants to know, because they're not known as the most friendliest guys to the media to do anything that they don't want to do. So really, it really goes back to Steve Sabol, who you guys both knew well. And it's all about history. And both of these guys are not the type, Bill and Bill are not the type to really celebrate their place in history. They have a lot of, humility in the moment. They don't want to talk about themselves, but they do very much recognize their place in history. You think about Coach Belichick, he never wants to talk about the current championship. He's thinking about the future, but he recognizes the past, and he understands all of history in the National Football League. And both of them have always had a very strong kinship with Steve Sabol and NFL Films. And the more I've thought about it over the years, I've always thought that the Parcells guys and the type of players that Belichick tries to get on his team, they're the type of people that Steve Sabol hired and we continue to try to bring into NFL Films, because both Steve Sabol, Bill Belichick, Bill Parcells, they all saw a purity in their art form. For the Bills, it was coaching, and for Steve Sabol, it was filmmaking. And the three of them hated the politics. They hated meetings. They didn't want to deal with media. What they wanted to do is just get their art form right and do it to the very best of their abilities and to inspire people around them. And so I think there's always been a kinship between the three of them, and that's lasted to this day. And the company, I think, still represents Steve Sabol, even though he's gone. So the ask was fairly easy to get them to get together, really to make sure that future generations remember the bond that they had. And, 15 years is a long time in the NFL to work together. Two Hall of Famers like that, it doesn't happen. The closest you get, if you look at Hall of Fame coaches, is probably Paul Brown and Bill Walsh, who worked together for 8 years. And Parcells and Belichick worked together for 15.
Right.
And if you think anyone could work, together peacefully and coexist, you wouldn't pick Parcells and Belichick. But they made it work, and it's an amazing story.
Well, so you said easy to get them together. Now you have to sit down and talk with them. So, I mean, Trey and I interview athletes all the time, and you get to know some that you could ask one question, you can go get a cup of coffee with their answer, and others, you got to be ready with a ton of questions. I can't imagine the amount of questions you had to be ready for with these guys just in case you got some of their, especially Belichick, short answers.
Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking, and we're behind a curtain because the way we set it up is we put a camera at the edge of the table they were sitting at with my reflection in it. And so all they saw was my reflection in the camera, and all the crew and everything was behind a big sheet. So we were really isolated, and we could see them in monitors. And when they walked in, you could feel the electricity in the room. They had only been together in front of the camera one other time.
Wow.
In 1991, which is in the film and is an amazing, amazing old archive clip in 1991 when Coach Belichick was with the Browns. And, yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if my heart rate, if I said my heart rate wasn't, 180 or above. It was an unbelievable moment when they walked in, and I tell you, I thought at some point I would have to serve as mediator. I didn't know what their relationship was. Even though I knew they had found some sort of peace, I thought, I might have to get these guys on the same page or try to push them together in some way. And it turns out, as you can tell in the film, I was the outsider. They bonded a couple times against me and pushed me away and kind of busted on me and broke my stones about various things. And it was great to see because it showed where they're at now. They're very much at peace with their relationship. And anyone who asks about it, they're joined together in how they see each other, and they're not going to let anything come between them again.
Well, that was pretty clear as Ken Rogers, the director of the Two Bills, joins us. It's our new 30 for 30. It comes out on February 1st at 9 o'clock, I believe, on ESPN. The two things that I took away, Ken, from watching this is one, Bill Belichick has certainly has not skipped chest day since early in his career. He's certainly got a lot bigger up top. And more importantly, he used to be much more interesting and sort of open to the media in some of his old press conferences in Cleveland or even when he was with the Giants as opposed to the way he handles things now.
Well, two things. One, I think today, if you ask him the right questions, and a lot of people have seen this, he'll go on forever about particular topics. People have written, if you ask him about left-footed punters, he'll talk forever. I can promise you, ask him about Paul Brown, and you better get a couple tapes ready because he'll continue forever and ever in a good way. But one of the biggest misnomers I was surprised by was the Jets' resignation, which is a big part of this film, this apocryphal story of Bill Belichick turning his back on the New York Jets. It's a dramatic moment. It was a dramatic moment in their relationship, but of course, historically, everyone remembers this as this, hugely negative moment for Coach Belichick. And you watch the tape of his resignation, given his current explanation of what he was thinking, and it actually makes a lot of sense. And how he explains what he was thinking at the time, it's all very clear, and it's all very understandable what he was going through. And I was shocked by that because I had heard these rumors that this press conference was just a train wreck and he was a mess, and it actually was really understandable to see what he was going through, and I understood his decision to walk away from the Jets. Obviously, there's a whole other side, including Coach Parcells, who at the time didn't. But that's the way it is with family, and that my big takeaway from the film was this relationship, Parcells and Belichick. I think everyone can understand it because we all have family relationships that are very much like this. You cannot talk to a sibling or a parent or a cousin for years, and then you get back together, and the love was always there. But, family, sometimes you just don't talk. Close friends, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have a misunderstanding where you're both right. You both have a reason to be upset. You both crossed the line and broke the bond. And then time goes by and you let it go. And that's what it was for these guys. They both had a reason to be upset in their own minds. Neither was the villain and neither was the victim. They had a misunderstanding. They had to take care of what they thought was best for each other. And then they came back together. And you couldn't have had that disagreement and the coming back together if there wasn't great love between Belichick and Parcells.
Talking to Ken Rogers, director of the Two Bills, coming out Thursday, February 1st. How was that for them to talk about? Was it cathartic at all? I mean, was it like a therapy session, or did they just move on from it, like you say?
No, that's exactly it. I'll tell you, when we started showing the footage to people inside NFL Films, particularly I remember the moment our in-house composer, Dave Robideau, we showed him some footage so he could start writing the score, the musical score to it. And he came to us a day after looking at it, and he said, you know what's amazing about this? They're working it out in the chairs.
Right.
They're figuring out their relationship as they're talking. And that really is what happened, because I think when they came back together in 2005, and this great story that's in the film on Nantucket, and got back together as, quote, friends, I don't think they ever talked about what they went through, the negative times. They just moved on. That's what they do, is what Coach Parcells, they're trained to move on to the next game, the next situation. So they moved on. They never really sat down and talked about what happened between them. This was that opportunity. And they kind of worked it out as they went. And we got deeper and deeper into that situation until my final question about, do they love each other? And have they told each other they loved each other? And I don't want to give it away, but just getting to that point, I don't think could have happened unless we spent the 3 hours we spent digging deeper and deeper and deeper into that relationship, starting with the great moments in the Giants, but going deeper and deeper until we got into the core of the relationship and asking about, do they love each other? And I had that as my last question on the sheet. You talk about all that list of questions I had.
Right.
I had, do you love each other?
Did you ask it and run?
And everyone I showed the list to, they said, well, you're not asking that. There's no way you're asking Belichick and Parcells, have you told each other you loved each other?
Well, he did. I've seen the show. He did. Again, I don't want to spoil the ending either for those that are waiting to see it. But that, Ken Rogers, I thought was interesting. I also thought the way the film ended, without giving it away, the last thing the two of them said was maybe the most interesting thing of the entire documentary.
Yes, and I don't want to give it away either, but
this is a great tease, by the way. We're doing a really good job here.
I'll tell you what it comes down to, and I can give a little bit of it away, is that we asked them to do something that it's about the past. It's about the time with the Jets that didn't go well, and that they fight back against me. They refuse to go along with me, and it's one of those moments I spoke about where they were on the same page.
Oh yeah.
There was no me trying to cajole one of them to get the other one to go along. They were united, and I think it's symbolic and perfect that they refused to literally go back to the past. They were done. They refused my request and said, nope, we're leaving. And they called an end to the day. I didn't want the day to end. I wanted to keep shooting, but they
had other plans.
They were done.
Yeah.
They said, we're moving on. And that's really where they're at right now. They're not going back to where they were from 99 to 05. They're not going to go back. They're not going to allow anyone to bring that back up and to push their way between them. And I thought it was a perfect way to end the film. And it just meant that this chapter of that so many people wanted to hear about, the Jets chapter, is over for good. And I think the next chapter is just them continuing on as legends that they are.
Well, you're right. The way it ends is just perfect. It really is. Without getting into any more details, it's absolutely perfect. And then literally the film just ends. So it was really great. Ken, we appreciate you being on with us, the director of The Two Bills. Again, it comes on ESPN Thursday, February 1st. It is well worth your time. Thanks for spending part of your morning with us.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks for having me.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. Make sure to subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, and to listen every weekday morning at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and the ESPN app.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like I'm on top of the world.
Disclaimer, you will not be transported to the top of the world. In the unlikely event you find yourself at the Arctic Circle, seek shelter from the elements immediately to avoid frostbite and or hypothermia. Geico will not be responsible if you find yourself in a cave or crevasse with a lonely abominable snowman, who in all likelihood will force you to play games including but not limited to Go Fish, charades, Chinese checkers, or his personal favorite, Red Rover, send Yeti on over. Geico is not liable for any damages, either physical or emotional.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.